Hi, this is Mashnu, and I would like to show you a game that I played at the chess club last Friday evening, and I was playing white here, and I opened with d4. My opponent played d5. I continued with the Queen's Gambit, and he played the Slav defense, c6. Now knight to c3, knight to f6, knight f3, all developing moves, and then he plays e6, and I continued here. White has actually several choices in this position, like bishop g5, e3. Sometimes I play e3 followed by queen to c2, and then g4 is an interesting line, but I chose this time to play bishop to f4, which is a less common move. But I like this idea that you bring your bishop out of the pawn chain before playing e3, and then if the c file opens, then you have some pressure on this c7 square. So that's the main strategical idea. Now bishop to e7 was played. I continued with e3. He castled kingside. I played bishop to d3, preparing castling kingside as well. He plays now knight b to d7, and I castled. And here actually the most common move, perhaps the best move, is to play knight to h5, but my opponent played here b6 with the idea of placing the bishop on b7 or perhaps on a6, but knight to h5 is very interesting. Now this bishop is going to be traded, and actually when we reached, I'll just go back one move, when we reached this position I started doubting whether I should have played h3 before castling. So actually here that's what was my thought. Should I have played h3, so if he plays knight to h5 I can play bishop to h2. I remember I've seen this idea in some grandmaster game of playing h3 so your bishop can hide on h2, but I wasn't sure. So anyway, what I did was castling, and he played b6, and then I played h3, but actually it's not necessary. When I analyzed this game, I saw that in this position after castling kingside, if black plays knight to h5, it's not a big thing trading this bishop, because you have bishop to e5 here, and if the knight takes the bishop, then you retake with the pawn, and then white is threatening to play g4, winning the knight on h5. So black needs to play something like g6 here to have a square for the knight there on g7, and after queen to e2 for example, followed by rook f to d1, then well, it's quite a pleasant position for white, even though we have lost this dark square bishop, but the domination of the dark squares here is in favor of white. So perhaps the position is equal, but anyway, what I mean to say is that there is no need to be afraid of this knight to h5 idea. So actually after b6, h3 was not really necessary. Here he played bishop to b7, and now I took on d5. Now how to take back? In the game my opponent played knight takes d5, and when we were analyzing the game after we had finished, we thought that probably e takes d5 followed by c5 is the correct thing to do. So e takes d5 here, and for example rook to c1 and then c5, opening the center and giving this bishop on b8 some more life there, helping it to control this center square. and of course white must not take here, because then this pawn can later advance and this bishop becomes a very well placed bishop there. So perhaps here, I don't know, perhaps something like bishop, queen to c2 is an idea, or making use of this f5 square that has become available now since he has taken like this. So something like bishop to f5 perhaps is an idea. But anyway, in the game, knight takes d5 was played. I took the knight because I didn't want to play bishop to g3, because if I do that, then he can place his other knight from d7 to f6, and then he has two active knights, and I don't want that. So what I did is I took on d5, he took back with the c pawn, and I think this is not good, because now it becomes a fight for the c file, and I already have this nice placed bishop here on f4 looking at c7. So c7 is actually the main square, the most important square now in this position, because what I want to do is I want to bring my rook to c1 to c7. That's the main plan. He let's see, it's white to move here. Yeah, rook c1 was played, and now he has to play rook to c8. If he doesn't, then rook c7 comes. For example, if knight to f6, then rook c7 attacking the bishop on b7. If he defends it, then I can play queen to a4 attacking the pawn on a7, and if he advances this pawn to a6, then my other rook enters from f1 to c1, and I have complete control over the c file. This is a better position for white, clearly. So black must not allow this, and that's the reason why here he played rook to c8. Now I played queen to d2 with the idea of trading one rook on c8 after this, and then placing the other rook on c1 again with the idea of entering on c7. In the analysis after the game, we saw that this was, well, there was another way to achieve this. It's actually much easier, and that is not to play queen to d2, but to take on c8. Rook takes c8, queen takes c8, and now queen to b1 with a threat of taking bishop takes h7 check. That's something I missed, this queen to b1 when I was calculating. So here he must play something like knight to f6 to defend h7, and then I have time to bring my rook to c1 attacking the queen on c8. So then the queen must move. Well, actually the only place to go is a8, because if queen to e8 or to d8, then the rook enters on c7. So he must play queen a8 to defend this bishop on b7. Now still rook c7 is a good move, by the way, but he has bishop to d8. Something similar happened in the game. I'm going to show you. Let me return to the position where we left, because I played here queen to d2, knight f6 followed. Now I took on c8. He took back with the queen and a rook to c1, and here again the queen goes to a8 for the same reason as in the previous variation. Otherwise rook to c7 is very strong, but still I played rook to c7 attacking the bishop on e7, and my idea was to I did see bishop to d8, and I thought then if he does that I go to c3 with my rook, and then I bring my queen to c2, and I have more control over the c file. He played here bishop to e7. By the way, again in the analysis after the game, we saw that knight to e4 is a very good alternative, forcing me to trade this light square bishop, and then my knight could go to e5, but it's not staying there for very long, because black has f6, for example, and perhaps even followed by g5. I don't know. So this is a better plan for black to play this than what happened in the game, because he played bishop back to e7, and now I realized that my idea was to play queen to c2, and I saw a variation that I didn't like. I saw this variation, queen to c2, bishop b4 check, check, attacking my rook, rook to c7, and now knight to e8, and I thought this is not very comfortable for me, because it's locking in my rook. I need to play my rook to d7, but that's not correct. I thought that I needed to go here, and then he could go back here and repeat moves. But actually in this position white has a very nice move. It's a3, and I didn't see this in my calculation, because this bishop doesn't have anywhere to go. So if black takes now on c7, then white takes the knight, and after this the bishop will fall. All the squares where he can go are covered by white except a5, but if he plays bishop a5 then b4 catches the bishop, so black must here give the bishop for a pawn, and this is an excellent position for white. So I missed this idea of a3 in my calculation, so what I did, let me return right here, instead of playing queen to c2, I thought I need to have my rook on c2 to play later queen to c1, so I repeated the move rook to c7, bishop d8, and then rook to c2, with the same plan of doubling up this rook and queen on the c file. Now he played bishop e7 again, and I went with my queen to the c1. So I had achieved what I wanted, control over the c file. The question is how to continue this. It's not very easy. My opponent played rook to c8 here, and I played knight to e5, and he took the rook on c2, and he offered me a draw. Now I declined it, because I thought I have a better position. My queen is more active than his queen, my bishops are more active than his bishops, and my knight is well posted there on e5. So I reclined the draw offer, and I took the rook with my queen, and here something happened that psychologically it's very instructive, that many times after a draw offer that is denied, or after reaching the time control, the mind of one of both players relaxes, and then a big mistake follows. And that's what happened here. After I had declined his draw offer and played queen takes c2, he quickly played queen to c8, and this is a blunder. He's actually losing the game, because I trade queens, and after the bishop retakes he has no longer control over the square c6, so I can play knight to c6, attacking the bishop on e7 and attacking the pawn on a7. And that's not the only thing. After king to f8 and I take this, the bishop on c8 is attacked, and after that one moves I can play bishop to c7, gaining this second pawn on b6. There is no way to save it, so here my opponent thought for a minute or 10 and then resigned. What should he have done? Let's return. Instead of that ugly queen move, so instead of this, he had a very interesting move, is bishop to d6, controlling c7, so preventing queen to c7. And the funny thing is that here there is a very interesting move for white as well, and that is knight to d7. Attacking two pieces on f6 and on d6. If black takes the bishop, then knight takes f6, g takes f6, e takes f4, and then h6, not to lose that pawn on h7. and we reach this position that is, well, I find it a little bit better for white. It's not much, because black will activate his pieces soon, and we get an endgame of, if we later trade queens, we get an endgame of same color bishops, and it's not very clear which bishop is going to be a good one and which one is going to be a bad one, because these pawns here, they are on light squares, but it is imaginable that, let's say, the queens are off, and then black goes with this king to f8, e7, d6, and he tries to push this e-pawn, so then he solves this fixed pawn structure in the center, and then it's the question which bishop is going to be stronger. So it was not very clear. I do like the position for white, but still it's well, it would be perhaps a long endgame fight that would have happened here. But in the game, well, as I showed you, rook to c8 looks a very normal move that simplifies the position, entering an equal endgame, but it's absolutely not true because of this idea. Well, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time on YouTube. Bye.